every August across the country, football programs, college and professional football programs begin their training camps. And in certain parts of the country, it can be pretty hot. And we had a client that it had the hottest consecutive 100-degree days in August that had ever been experienced up to that point. So you're playing in full pads, college football player, Division I team, high competitive conference. And the wide receiver, a senior, was having difficulty catching the football in this 100-degree weather. Now, I challenge anybody to catch anything, a cold even, in 100-degree weather, as hot as it was. But the solutions that were necessary to help that young person, that athlete, that high-performer athlete, because up to that point, excellent performer. So even more frustrating for him that he was having difficulty catching the football. And it wasn't his realization that it was the weather. It wasn't until after we had sat down and discussed the factors that were influencing him that had nothing to do with the weather, but he thought they were the ones that influenced him not catching the ball. Maybe it was defense doing something that he shouldn't be doing. Well, it's practice. We'll get through that. So we dealt with those emotions. But what was beneficial was the process of understanding who this receiver was. We had the luxury of being able to have developed a relationship with him for over 2 years. So we knew him pretty well. And in going through the process of deeper understanding what was on his mind, we began to understand that it had nothing to do with people. It had to do with his thoughts about going out to another practice where it was 100 degrees outside. And that stuck in his head. It stuck in his head all the way through practice. And the more fatigued he got, the more influence the heat had on him, not necessarily physically, but mentally. So now we had to sculpt the process of getting that off of his plate. How do you do that? How do you get him distracted with something else, engaged with another thought that is going to pull that out of that obstacle away from him? Well, we relied on the breathing techniques, started training him on breathing rhythms so that now he starts to think about the breathing and not about the temperature, regardless of how hot it got, and relaxing. Well, interestingly enough, physiologically, the more promotion of red blood cells into your system, the better your body is adapting to high heat. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't stay hydrated. He's still going to need water. But that was definitely covered by the trainers. So there was a connection between what we prescribed with the trainers to make sure that we were really focused on him staying hydrated. So we had this trainer constantly talking to him. So they distracted himself away from that. He was breathing, constantly reminded about breathing through your nose, out through your mouth, and recovering. The next thing we did was connected it to the process of catching the ball. So now we said, as you're leaping, you're going to breathe in. That's the anaerobic. Muscles are tensing. The ball's coming. You're going to see that little circle, the ball. That's all you're going to focus on. As you're ready to catch the ball, you're exhaling, so you're relaxing. You have supple hands. And then you breathe in again to tighten up and catch it and prepare to get hit. Well, we had practiced that. Gave him a process that was connected from the time he left the locker room to the time he actually caught the pass. Now, great end result. Kid felt great about himself. Caught more passes. Not extraordinarily great practice that first time, but caught more passes. So positive frame of mind going out of it. But what was even more impactful, he felt great. He recovered quicker. He was more oxygenated because of the process of taking in the oxygen, which means the red blood cells are getting to the muscle tissue. The other benefit was the next day his recovery was much more efficient. And the trainers were totally overwhelmed by how quickly that impacted him. But it required training. It required a thoughtful inquiry into who are you? What's happening? What are the obstacles? And then breaking that back to a process that connects all the pieces.